All right, so let's move on to the next session. The next session is a panel discussion on AI transformation and the widespread impact and what it could mean for the industry. This panel will bring in industry leaders who will discuss the disruptions AI are causing across various sectors and how businesses can adopt to not only survive but thrive in the age of AI. Panelists will examine the AI's global impact while considering the specific regional context in the Middle East. So I'm excited to introduce the distinguished panelist, Safia Tmiri, Executive Director at Al-Fanar Venture Philanthropy. Safia. Welcome. Bas Putz, Global Head of Learning and Skill Architecture at Siemens. Welcome. And moderating this discussion is Julie Stack, Regional Director for Lower Gulf at Coursera. Julie, please take it away. Switch screen, please.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm thrilled to introduce what promises to be a thought-provoking and insightful session today on AI transformation, the widespread impact, and what it could mean for your industry. So as we enter a new era of technological advancements, AI is transforming industries at an unprecedented pace. From healthcare to finance, education to tech, AI is not simply a buzzword, it's a game changer that is redefining the way we live and work. However, along with its immense potential, AI brings forth significant challenges and complexities for businesses and organizations. So in today's discussion, we'll deep dive into the profound disruptions AI is causing across various sectors, and our esteemed panelists will share their invaluable perspectives and insights on how businesses are navigating the new landscape, and we'll also explore actionable strategies that businesses can adopt to thrive in this new era. So I'd like now to introduce our two panelists. We've got Safia Tmiri and Bas Putz. I'm going to let you both introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Hi, and thank you for having me in this panel. So I'm Safia Tmiri. I'm the Executive Director of Al-Fanar Venture Philanthropy. I was asked this morning what venture philanthropy means. It's essentially deploying philanthropic capital to social enterprises. Today we have operations in Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, and Lebanon. And I think most of the examples that I will draw on this conversation will be AI in the third sector, so both for us as a venture philanthropy, but also for the social enterprises on the ground.
Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Bas Putz. I work for Siemens at the Central Learning and Development Department, which orchestrates the Siemens Learning and Growth ecosystem, which has a learning experience platform at its core, which is kind of an umbrella for anybody within Siemens who has a stake at learning and development. So be it a skill manager or a transformation manager, a learning representative, a content owner, a contributor, a change manager. For all of them, we want to ensure that what they need for their role in the ecosystem and on the platform is smooth, meaningful, and operational. And for that, you need a good architecture, and that is exactly what my team is responsible for a good learning and skill architecture. Nice to meet you all, and yeah, looking forward to the panel.
Thank you both. I also want to mention that if a question comes to mind throughout the discussions you're hearing, please hang on to it. We're going to have some time at the end of the hour for those questions. So to start off, I want to share an insight from a recent study by Asana's Work Innovation Lab, which reveals an intriguing contradiction. As AI adoption skyrockets, successful integration continues to be a challenge. Despite over half of the employees, so 54%, utilizing AI on a monthly basis, a mere 12% of these employees say that their organizations have mature AI implementations. So by mature, I mean a comprehensive and effective integration of AI technologies within their organization. So this indicates a significant gap between adoption and effective utilization, which highlights a critical issue. Companies are eager to embrace AI, but often lack a comprehensive strategy for its integration, resulting in inefficiencies and ultimately hindering the very productivity gains that AI promises. So the question for both of you then is, given the disparity between AI adoption and effective implementation, what would you say would be some key elements that should be included in a comprehensive AI strategy to bridge this gap and ensure successful implementation? Bas, whoever would like to start?
So I think from experience, for me, there are probably 3 different elements to take into account. The first part is AI talent. I think even when we talk about like most of the organizations investing in a hype or a right solution, again, that's a big question mark. We know that at least in the third sector today, only 40% of NGOs, philanthropies, social enterprises self-indicate that they have the right AI talent. So, and without the right talent, deployment often falls into the cracks. So you can invest in the solution, but don't have the talent to actually carry it through. I think the second element is change management. You see it, I mean, one of our social enterprises is an AI-powered water management tool. And the change management here means that they need to cater to 2 different audiences. The first one is within their own team, making sure that the people who actually work with these solutions know how to leverage it, either to identify or predict water leakages, for instance. But it's also about the farmers that they serve. Do they have the connectivity? Do they have the training to actually adopt these tools? So I think that's also like catering not just to your own internal talent base, but also to the user experience and audiences that you serve. And I think lastly is really the processes, right? Like how integrated is AI within your overall architecture? And maybe that's how I'll pass it to Bas to speak more about that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think AI is not a wonder middle you can just switch on, right? So it will do things. It can create a speed, but if you don't have a clear strategy, I'm not talking about an AI strategy, talking as a strategy as your company, knowing exactly where your USPs are in this world where technology can be very easily adapted by others or copied by others. So that means you have to be really strong and aware of where is my exact USP, and thrive on that one. And then, of course, you have to make your right choices, because you can't do everything. It's evolving so quickly. You probably need to focus on some aspects and there go ahead with it. If you don't do it, basically you do either everything or nothing, and that results then in the gap that things are not really being adopted or not really working.
Thank you both. So I heard you speak about talent and strategy. According to a recent BCG study, what they found is that to get the transformation right, 70% of the focus should be on people and processes. So I think this aligns with what you were saying. So a question for you, Bas, is from your perspective as a learning and development leader, as industries face disruption from AI, what actionable strategies is Siemens implementing within its L&D programs to help employees adapt and thrive in the new landscape?
Yeah, I think at Siemens, at least for the L&D part, we know that we are really convinced that any change in terms of transformation The people part in it is essential to make that work. If you want to be successful in AI, you have to make sure that there's also a culture of learning and a culture of awareness that you might not know it all, but you want to know it all. You want to learn in an everyday and in a speed which is beyond what you normally would have. So as an L&D department, that's why I started with explaining the ecosystem in the LXP. You need to create this culture, or you want to create this culture, where people want to learn and want to embrace new things, where you inspire curiosity. That's one of the things we are highly building on. And we also want to make sure that everything we do as L&D is really in sync with the strategy. So we think a lot business back, as they call it nowadays, and that works so far as L&D department pretty good. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Sophia, would you say that there are any new skills or new competencies that have become more critical due to AI advancements?
So, you know, like, I mean, when I think about it, there's a big question about like the basic skills, which is digital literacy. And in the third sector specifically, when we talk about like our audiences, be it students, be it, you know, farmers, be it actually unemployed people or widows that are taking some of our microfinance tools, that's why we need to have the investment in the basic digital skills. So taking, you know, like managing a dashboard, reading the analysis, defining actually also what does that mean for their respective businesses. So it's almost, I mean, I know that it's probably a little bit behind compared to other sectors, but that's really the beginning of the journey. When I think about us as an investment house in this space, I think the first question is, where do we leverage AI, and the skills that are needed then become around like data management, around like workflow analysis, and that's primarily because we use it from an impact management perspective and from a portfolio analysis perspective. So it's almost like thinking about the dual lens of what skills are needed for people who are going to be on the front end of using some of the solutions, and those that are going to be on the back end of that, which is analyzing and predicting portfolio performance.
Thank you. So another question for both of you. Emerging AI trends will continue to influence various industries, requiring businesses to stay ahead of technological developments. So looking ahead, what emerging trends in AI do you foresee having the biggest impact on businesses? Bas, would you like to start with that one?
Yeah, I think there are so many new opportunities arising with AI. I mean, in terms of how you transfer text into meaningful data, how easy it is basically for everyone to create something with Gen AI. I think overall the speed in which it's happening is very important to be able as a company to handle that. Because, I mean, and even you talk now about AI, but maybe it's quantum computing in the future, right? So that at Siemens, that's why we say it's important to have foundational skills, so that you are able to handle whatever is thrown at you in terms of a transformation. Now it is AI, and there are new features coming up the whole time. But maybe it's quantum computing going forward, or something else. We just don't know.
Thank you. Would you like to add to that, Sophia?
Absolutely. I would like to actually draw some examples from our education portfolio. So we have a couple of social enterprises working in EdTech, and this is where, I think out of all the enterprises that we see, and also because of some bias, I see the most potential. And the potential is really threefold. I think one, and we spoke about the adaptive learning model, so how can we actually help students when the technology is in their hand to create the right material, the right pedagogy, the right level for education for them. And for me, what's interesting is that even when there is no connectivity, we're able able to actually collect the data that helps create those predictive models. And some of our solutions are deployed, for instance, through WhatsApp chatbots or through offline boxes, learning boxes that we give to communities. I think the second really big impact or trend of AI in education again is when it comes to teacher support. So when you actually deploy some of the tools that help teachers grade more effectively, prepare lesson plans more effectively, you're actually freeing their time to spend more on the learning and the one-to-one support to students. So that's really, really helpful. And the third part is early warnings. I think, again, like with the data that is collected, you're able to predict who are the students that are getting behind, who are the students that are potentially at risk of falling behind in their learning outcomes. And that's also something that you inform the teaching methods for. So, I mean, there are many examples where we see AI actually being quite effective in microfinance, in water management, but I feel that where we actually are able to reap those effects on a much larger scale, today it's really education.
Thank you both. Bas, a question for you. So in your role as Global Head of Learning and Skill Architecture at Siemens, how has the rise of AI influenced the design and the implementation of skills architecture at Siemens?
Yeah, so we have created our learning experience platform. That in itself was a transformation, not because we just switched on the platform, but we said we're going to do it completely different. We will use it as an ecosystem, and we had several academies within Siemens as a competition in the past as an L&D department. Now we've created this overall umbrella, and we have really democratized the usage of it. So curating content on the platform, we have over 170,000 learning items on the platform. But anybody can do a 2 hours training to get a certificate, and then you are a curator. So we have over roughly 2,000 colleagues. They just create meaningful collections. And that's super powerful because people follow people. If everybody within a certain department has a colleague who knows everything about a certain topic and the latest trainings to do, that person is now able to put everything on the platform in a collection and reach his audience. That is something which we were always way too late as L&D department. And now with AI, we already had AI in the platform with the algorithms for the search algorithms, but these are getting better and better. What we want to create is that there is already an AI companion at our platform. It's called Zoe. And Zoe should be able to help you in your learning space, that you during a course can ask, hey, could you summarize this? Or could you give me a quiz? And we are already testing this out in an early phase. And we see far more other options, so that at the end, it becomes like a hyper-personalization that you get already suggested to you because the system knows you so well, or your good and maybe not so good habits in terms of how you learn the most effective, that you get good advice, and which is meaningful for you.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. A question for you, Safia. According to the same BCG study that I mentioned earlier, by 2027, the top 26% of companies of AI maturity surveyed expect to achieve 45% more value via cost reduction, but 60% more value from revenue growth, more than other businesses with less AI maturity. So how would you say this maybe differs from smaller businesses or nonprofits or even the government sector?
That's an excellent question. I think, when people talk about AI, it's very counterintuitive to think about, the nonprofit sector, the third sector, in terms of use cases and implementation. And actually, I mean, the figures are there. I think 10% less capital flows into AI solutions in the third sector, when in fact it has the most potential to support some of the SDGs, especially in quality education and in climate. And maybe actually one of the examples that I'll mention is in the climate space, because I think I've spoken about the education gains, and those were probably more what we will call a productivity play, because when you're creating more time for tutors, supporting more of the student learners, that's more a productivity play than a revenue play. Where we've seen impact of AI solution in revenue is actually in Flowless, one of our social enterprises that provides water management and AI-powered platform to manage your water solutions. And what we found here to be quite interesting is how they embedded the AI in their core operations. It wasn't just, you know, in terms of the user interface that the farmers get, but actually it goes throughout all of their systems. So we look at one, they create digital twins for operators where you can see in real time actually your water infrastructure. They deploy data not just to identify potential leaks, but also to predict them. So that helps you from a decision perspective. And of course, that's also something that is quite unique. And it has, I mean, an impact in terms of reducing water losses everywhere by 50%, but it also, that was the differentiating factor for a social enterprise based in the West Bank to actually export their solutions to Ireland and to North Africa today. So this is like something that's quite interesting to take to take AI, put it at the core of their businesses to create and package it as a product that now becomes exportable beyond the region.
Thank you. That's fascinating and very interesting work. So a question for both of you then, and it's a question that I think is on the minds of probably everyone in this room, and that's on terms of measuring the impact. So what would you say would be some effective ways to measure the impact of AI initiatives on business performance and business outcomes? Bas, would you like to start that one first?
Yeah, I think you first need to really well understand what AI can do specifically for your use case. Speed is here of essence. So you can better start really small, create these small proof of concepts where you want to apply it. If you immediately start to then say what it should give as a return on investment, I think you will fail. But you have to. There's no way around it in AI in general. We all here in this room have to embrace it for ourselves, but also as a company. So you better get started with it and learn with interesting cycles. Do it in short cycles, learn from it, and then you will see how much productivity gain you might have, or how much speed you can create in doing complete new things in terms of your portfolio or your product development. There are many examples in terms of speed of development of a product or time to market or all those kind of things. But if you quantify them in advance, it won't work. Afterwards, you will see fantastic results, and we see them across Siemens, but many companies already have very good results around it.
Thank you. Sophia?
You know, I agree a lot with what you said, and impact measurement is, you know, the big crux in the third sector. Everyone is asking you, what is impact? What does it look like? I mean, and I think what I really liked from one of the sessions in the main hall is thinking about AI as an amplifier. So where I agree with you is that you need to be very specific in terms of what is the specific, you know, operation, process, outcome that AI is able to amplify within your operations or within those of your investees. So when I think about, you know, my own operations, what takes the biggest time is, one, measuring impact for our portfolio of enterprises. So all that data gathering, then taking it and you know, translating it into meaningful insights and metrics that can help them improve their financial performance, but also impact performance. And there, like for me, the biggest way to measure AI impact is how much time did I free from the menial kind of bottom data collection, cleaning, and gathering, how much time did I free in my people so that they can start generating more insights, and that those insights in turn become helpful in changing the operational direction of the investee. So that's one way of measuring it. I think when you talk about social enterprises that are embedding AI in their solutions, be it in education, in microfinance, or in water management, then the outcome is probably directly linked to a revenue or to a cost reduction. And there it's much more specific and much directly linked. But again, I think it's an iterative process, as you said. So we cannot know today beyond, what we're measuring in a very tactical way.
Great, thank you both. And from your experiences, what would you say when a company is looking or a business is looking at integrating some of the critical factors into integrating AI into their organization? What are some common pitfalls or mistakes that they might make that you maybe have seen happen, that you've already learned from, and that you could offer advice to avoid?
Yeah, I think with AI, you really have to look at the bigger picture. And the first thing that comes into mind, which is clearly a pitfall or it's like a painful process you have to go through, it's data. It's data, data, data. Data is the oxygen for AI. If your data quality is not good enough, then the AI, it will be, you have very poor results. And I don't know, 3 years ago, we started with this whole transformation of our L&D department, and we said, we're going to do everything data-driven. Yeah, right. We said it, but we weren't used to it at all. And we learned it the hard way. And I can tell you one thing out of personal experience, data is a beast. It bites you in the tail, really. You think you have your data quality ready. You might think, hey, Siemens, you have your data strategy and quality ready. Well, we are getting better at it. Are we good at it? No. We still need to prove that. We still have work to do. If you are a really data-driven company and you ask for data, the first thing somebody will say who owns the data will say, okay, sure, how can I help you? It's also a culture thing, how you do manage data. If you ask for data within Siemens, I'm afraid in a lot of areas, some groups will say, why do you need this? Why are you asking me? Are you authorized to ask this? But that's not the culture if you work with data and data management. And data quality, we can fill a whole event here only on getting data quality right. And if you want to use AI properly, you have to measure so many things. It's unbelievable how much data you need before the algorithms can really do their magic. So the pitfall is, I think, don't underestimate the importance of your data quality.
Thank you. Safia.
No, I think data is definitely the first step. In my industry, it's also another thing that we take for granted, which is connectivity. So when we think about some of our edtech solutions, they operate in environments where only 1 in 20 children has access to internet. And so, you start with a bit of an oxymoron. You have an edtech startup and there's no internet where they need to deploy their solutions. So I think that was like a bit of a reality check for a few social enterprises that then start thinking about how can we take that solution that is the user-facing solution to work in offline context, so without continuous access to internet, and then make sure that the data that we collect in terms of grades, in terms of student learning, in terms of teacher notes, can then be fed into the back office infrastructure, so we generate insights and data that create a bit of that virtuous learning loop. So it informs actually decisions that are made the next day, the next week in the classroom. So I think there's really that element of data, the interplay between data and connectivity. For us as well, I think, and again, in both education and water management sectors, we've seen actually the digital literacy, and that's like a big, I mean, it feels to us like we have a phone, we have a dashboard, an iPad, we're able to really look and read through data, but a lot of the farmers or parents that we're interacting with don't have, I mean, wouldn't know actually how to read a dashboard, how to read a report, how to read notes for them to support and engage with you know, either their farms or their children. So that's also like a big work that we need to do to make sure that everyone really reaps the benefits of what, you know, we're leveraging to address the social problems.
Thank you. And then going back to the idea of this disruption caused to businesses, organizations because of AI. This is a question for both of you. Are there certain industries or certain sectors that you've witnessed either through your consultancy work or, you know, from Siemens' perspective, and either looking to other industries for guidance or just even comparing your own status of what you've already accomplished at Siemens? Are there certain industries, certain sectors that you think that have felt more disruption because of AI? I'll let Sophia go first. Thank you.
I mean, I can speak from, you know, my previous life in consulting and then some of my very recent current life in venture philanthropy. I mean, you know, like I think, especially if we look at AI for social good, I feel that the impact where it had most shift and change was actually healthcare. And you know, everyone will tell you that whether we're looking at more predictive or identifying analysis, healthcare has been the space where AI has been most used and most at the forefront of support, both from a patient perspective, but also from a drug development perspective. And we've seen it, you know, in COVID, in cancer, like how some of the technologies that were developed have really helped accelerate access and efficacy of drugs. So, I mean, for me, that's probably one of the sectors that has had the most disruption and impact to date. We're still waiting to see that, I mean, for me, in the three sectors where we operate, so in education and really thinking about innovative solutions so that we can reap the benefit of AI without necessarily, or while operating in areas, in vulnerable communities with little connectivity and digital literacy. We see it in water management because, I mean, today, like in the areas or the geographies where we operate, reducing water losses by 50% is really meaningful for farmers, and that also helps in food security and in improving yields as well. I think the third element where, you know, like where we're not deploying it yet is in microfinance, where it would, in my mind, save a lot of time helping screen and help predict actually credit scores for some of the users or clients that we have in our portfolio. And that saves time for the portfolio managers to actually do more work on financial literacy. So that's definitely something that I'm looking at.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for Siemens, in the space in which we operate, which is mainly about industrial AI, right, in various sectors. And it's really difficult to say where it impacts most. I think one thing is absolutely clear. It impacts for all the businesses which we have as partners or which we have as customers. And it shakes up. I mean, the world is in a huge change anyway. There are many conflicts, as we know. There's climate change. There's a lot of change in terms of regulations about sustainability. We have markets which are shaken up with barriers and trades. So we are in a disruptive world from that sense anyway. But from this AI part, the technology, yeah, it also shifts the market, the place. We have competition which can outsmart us if they apply AI better in terms of productivity or cost saving or being more innovative than we do. But we also see markets where we have completely new competition arising, which we didn't see or foresee before. So there's only one constant, actually. It's happening everywhere where we work. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And so reflecting on the conversation that we've had already this afternoon, what would be one piece of advice that you would offer to businesses just beginning their AI journey to ensure that they are setting themselves up to thrive in this new era of AI? Sophia, would you like to start with that one?
Yeah, I mean, I would say three things. I think one, invest in the right solution, not the hype one. And truly, I think that's really starting with why am I deploying this solution? Is it to actually improve my processes, deliver better products? So really invest in the one that fits most with your business model. The second one, invest in the right talent. I mean, it's a whole new word, and I think we've seen a lot of failures because of the human component. So how do you ensure that the staff that is going to actually work with this technology would actually be the best person to do it, and ensuring that they have that constant learning to learn mindset to continue. I mean, AI is changing every single day, so how do we ensure that the first iteration of the solution that you have can continue to be updated with the same people? So that's really investing in the right talent and in the right skilling models for them. And then lastly, processes, right? Like, I mean, I see it in my own industry. You introduce like a front, you know, your dashboard that is super AI, but then the back office is analog and Excel and like paperwork, etc. So unless you actually ensure that that solution integrates perfectly with the rest of your backbone of your enterprise, then it's much harder to actually, you know, kind of play back there. So yeah, invest right, people, processes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, my advice or tip would be, it's really old, right? The VUCA terminology. But I think VUCA needs VUCA. I saw a slide a while ago about it, saying you need vision. You need to be clear, where is your USP as a company? Despite the whole technology piece, where are you focusing on, knowing what's going on with AI, amongst others, in the world in which you are operating? You need to be understanding in terms of understanding what it could mean for your respective business. You have to create clarity, and clarity is for me then all about data. Know exactly what is applying for you, and you have to be agile, because you might plan something, but maybe with some short testing you find out, oh, this is not working at all with the assumptions we have. Then you have to shift and be able to shift really quickly. So I think VUCA needs VUCA.
Great, thank you. And just as a follow-up to that question, what do you think the leadership role is in being ready, AI ready, within an organization? Do you think it's important? And if so, what role do you think they should be playing?
I mean, I would say two things. One, giving people license to play with AI, but also being able to cut it short when it's failing. So really that agility in terms of, or you know, like giving people license to, because they're much closer. Like when I think about my impact measurement team, they're much closer to how AI can actually support them in the investment decisions, in the impact, in the data gathering and everything. But they're also the ones that are more invested in that solution. So for me, I would give them the license to play, but also allow them to fail fast so that we can actually change and iterate as needed.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Could you?
Yeah, the role of leadership.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think this is more than change management for leadership. You really talk about the transformation. And I don't know if you have been in a process of transformation, my definition is, if you transform, it hurts. You let go of stuff which you love, which you have been really good at. Maybe you've identified even yourself with it. But the new game is what builds you for the future. I sometimes say it's a bit like you transform from being and managing as a leader a soccer team towards a basketball team. Everything changes. The whole culture, the whole how you win, how you train, how you define success. So as a leadership team, you have to realize that this is far more comprehensive than just a tool or technology being introduced.
Very interesting, thank you. And then another question. We were just discussing, the advice you would give to a company that was just starting in their AI journey. But how can businesses stay ahead of the curve and anticipate future AI developments and potential disruptions down the road? What should they be doing to ensure that they're being prepared and being ready for what's to come?
Yeah, I think you can't be ahead of the curve. It's way too complex what we are talking about here. You can be ahead of your competition. If you know your data better, and if you have better transparency on it, and a sharper vision, I think you can still outplay your competition. But being ahead of all the things which are now possible, every time I think we are all surprised by more and more examples of what you would not have imagined before. So,
for me, I think absolutely agree. You cannot, or if you are then you're a futurist. But I think two main probably ways to stay ahead of the curve or at the curve. I think one is R&D, so ensuring that you have the right R&D infrastructure to play again with different solutions as they come, and to ensure that particular solutions will have different use cases depending on where you are on the curve and depending on your own core processes. So really having that as an infrastructure in your company. I think the second part is the criticality of mindsets, right? And that's where we talk about hiring talent that is happy to learn how to learn, that are self-starters, and the mindset also as a company to accept and adapt to change. And that's in my mind, that the human element of AI adoption is probably the toughest, because you're changing an organization, but for the organization to change, you need to change the people that are at the core of it.
Great, thank you. And we did talk a lot about the talent being a key part to a successful integration. When we're talking about talent and potentially bringing people in with the right talent, but also with our existing employees, how do we upskill them or reskill them to be ready to be successful in their roles or in their new roles? Obviously, AI skills are important, but are there any skills that, other than being the AI skills, the digital skills, other skills that we should not forget about, that we also need to continue to prioritize within our teams, within the organization? Sorry.
yeah, I think we call that foundational skills. So anything which is thrown at you now it's AI, but it might be different topic. I think I mentioned it also earlier in this panel. That this is really about that you embrace being curious, that you are resilient, and you work on your resilience also as a manager, that you know that resilience of your staff is extremely important. And this learning to learn and the openness around it, so that you also embrace basically change, are, I think, super important elements.
Thank you.
I think for me, when I started this role, I had the chance to start in this role with a retreat, with meeting my whole team for the first time, and I was walking around with a matrix, skills and wills, and the will for me was in many ways more important, because you can have high skill, low will. That can be a diva, and you need some divas in your team. But if you have low skill and low will, that's someone that are not going to be able to kind of keep the pace of change that you're trying to do. And so what does will mean? I think will for me is one, curiosity, like someone who's actually staying abreast about the developments in their own industry without me having or anyone having to actually tell them what to do. I think the second one is creativity, and that's something, I mean, in my mind, if there's anything that differentiates us from a machine, is really that, the capacity to imagine and create. Third is collaboration. Most of the problems that we get to solve as a company, as a team, do not, are not being solved by one person alone, but require different skill sets. So that's really, really important to have people who can work in their teams. And then lastly, of course, learning to learn. I want people who, like send me articles, send me new trainings, send me new courses that they find online and want to go there, because learning is really the one constant today.
Thank you for that. And actually that leads me to my last question before we move on to audience questions. I think some hands are eager to go up, so we'll get to you in a minute. You mentioned collaboration, and I think you were talking about collaboration within the organization. The question I have is, have you seen or have you witnessed any collaborations where when an organization is trying to implement an AI strategy, are there collaborations that they should look to externally to help them along that journey, whether that's in terms of their talent or strategy building, reviewing the processes that they have in place, any collaborations that that you might have used, in the earlier stages of implementation. So, Bas, I'll let you take that one.
I think the important word here is co-creation, because you can't do stuff yourself completely anymore. A concrete example internally of the L&D unit, when we wanted to acquire or choose for a learning experience platform, we weren't happy. And it was Infosys as a company which came to us and says, why don't we co-create this together? And that is, co-creation also sounds really easy. I can tell you, it's really hard work. But once you get it going, you come to new opportunities. And I see also that Siemens is, in various other areas, also co-creating stuff with customers or with partners, because knowing it all ourselves and being able to do it all ourselves, that's not the world we live in anymore.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely, and I think, part of the value add, or what we mean by venture philanthropy, is actually the Impact Connect. So we take social enterprises operating in different geographies, but with similar-ish business models, or a different stage of deploying that business model, and we put them together to learn from each other. Because there's, to your point, actually, co-creation or learning doesn't happen if someone is speaking at you and telling you what to do. It actually happens when you meet a co-founder or someone who has gone through the same challenges, who has seen the same errors and failures, and who can actually give you a bit of that view from the future. This is what it will look like for you in 6 months. These are some of the pitfalls that you should avoid. And so, for me, I've seen a lot of magic happening when we take social entrepreneurs to meet together, rather than us telling them what to do.
Thank you. Okay, so I think what we're going to do now is turn it over to your questions. Kalle, could I just ask you to share the mic with... Oh, we have got one here. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It was very amazing, the good insights going on. In your previous question, what you put it on the leadership role, so I would like to add few points.
Please.
I don't know if it is. So I think, in my opinion, when you talk about the leadership role, they have to take it into consideration, the regulatory framework, which is very important, and the staff is following the regulations or not to get automated and to get completed, like you're going shortcuts, not following the regulation. So I think when you talk about the countries which are #1 in infrastructure, like, say, Dubai, the benchmark index globally, so they always take the first steps to get the rules, regulations. I think that's which gets the safety for the people, economy, and rules, regulation, government, and everything, right? And then it has to also taken care in a leadership role to see how ethically the AI is being used. Not because it's just a buzz globally, that you have to use it, or if I say top 5 IT companies say that A is going for this benchmark, I should also go. That shouldn't be the case, because it has to be on a proportionate manner how useful it is and not. So ethicality will always be there. And the point 3 is always the plan B should be there, because these kind of things are technological oriented. So if we have to rewind ourselves back to the olden days as well sometimes to do things correctly. And if something is not working, so your operations wouldn't be stopped. You still have to go to the bank, withdraw the cash. The cashier is there, no matter ATM, wherever they are, but they have to be presentable in any situations.
Thank you.
I don't know how far it is.
Great, thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you. I think, Safi, you mentioned the rural issue that we have, or typically populations outside of urban centres who can't access the internet. Therefore, they're unable to access ICT education. And of course, they're far removed from any of the AI initiatives that we're seeing. What are the potential solutions for that? How do we address that? And obviously in Africa, other emerging regions, that's becoming an increasingly acute issue as more government applications become digitized. That digital divide just seems to get bigger and bigger.
No, that's a very good question. I think bridging the digital divide is quite important. So for us, at least at a micro level, what we're supporting social entrepreneurs in is building offline solutions. So not everything has to depend on access to connectivity or internet to do some of the, or to access some of the services that we support. But the second part is actually, I think, more on the advocacy side. As we reach communities that are much more far removed, how do we work with governments to create connectivity solutions that leapfrog, in a way, the digital infrastructure that needs to be built? So that's more on the advocacy side. But on the execution and implementation side, we actually work increasingly with social entrepreneurs to provide offline solutions.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, my question is in regards to the role and responsibilities of organizations to support their employees navigate this change in terms of not only upskilling, but the effect of the mental well-being on them, and how do you envision their role? Thank you.
Did you catch that?
So mental well-being.
Mental health. So your question was around mental health in terms of the impact of upskilling on someone. I couldn't catch all of it.
Yeah,
sorry.
exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously change is difficult, and so along with supporting employees with the actual upskilling of the task itself, we should also, I would think, look into the impact of that on their mental well-being. And so I'm wondering if you think that's important, and if so, what role would organizations take?
Well, the first response is absolutely yes. I think we have seen with in COVID times how important well-being is. We launched our experience platform just a month before COVID hit us. And it was a superb start from something, of course, quite negative and bad for the world. And we organized in several locations in the world learning weeks. The whole topic of well-being, it was if you would do anything in that space, it was over-registered immediately by an enormous group of people. And it still is. If we organize learning weeks, the topic of well-being, we put it there because we know a lot of employees need guidance, help to deal with today's world, with social media, with data in itself. And AI is basically only increasing that need. So it's for Siemens a very important topic because you create also new boundaries. Work is being redefined, but how well do you feel within it? And as an employee, what boundaries can you take, or what boundaries is the company taking for you, is of high importance.
Thank you. I think, okay, I'll take one more question.
Thank you very much for this important lecture you gave us. My question is, what is the ABC for a layman who do not have basic information on AI to start? Where to start? How I can start a business using AI? What is the ABC? Basic one.
I didn't catch the whole question. Sorry. Would you be able to reframe?
Yes,
that for me?
I can say it again. For a person who do not have basic knowledge in, for example, in IT or digital literacy, where can he start to do a business in AI?
So if I try to repeat the question because I didn't get the second explanation, but you're asking where to start a business in AI?
Yes.
Well,
For
is
individuals, not for companies, for individuals.
Oh,
can use the AI in some ways. Not necessarily, I think, because he tells that a person not good in IT or something, how he will start with AI.
But AI itself is not a business.
Yeah,
So AI is only speeding things up. If you apply it wrongly, you get really quickly horrible results. If you apply it in the correct way, then you can get great results. Of course, you can do consultancy about AI and do our business about that. But this is why I also said, look at the VUCA aspects, right? Create a vision. Where is your USP? Your USP is not within AI, I think. It is something else. For Siemens, it's domain knowledge about the industry. We know really well how the industry is producing and how things are, the supply chain around it. Because of that, we have so much knowledge where AI can speed that up in transforming that knowledge into good solutions. Yeah. If that answers your question, yeah.
Okay. There was one more, I think. Someone was being very patient.
Hello?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm here. Actually, my question is about the learning curve, because the university are transmitting information in a certain way, and we are in a new era of AI where the access of information is more efficient and explicit. So, and this question can go also to the human resources and the way they are dealing with people in order to, let's say, to evaluate this knowledge. So my main question is how to evaluate the learning curve of someone, and is the way that we are teaching people has to change, because the main issue was to get access to the information and get access to someone who will teach you how to do it. But in our days, the access is easy. And because I think about it like, maybe in our days is the will to improve and the will to achieve something that has the more impact of a project or of, I don't know, in society in general, let's say. So this is my question, and thank you.
Yeah, I think it undermines the importance of, well, at Siemens we call it growth mindset. The fact that you are asked, actually invited to learn and keep on embracing that culture that you want to learn every day. I think what's super important is that it's meaningful for an employee. If it's meaningful, you'll spend time on it. If the experience is smooth, then you easily access it. And if it's inspirational, then you want to stay in that experience. So it's also, yes, I am fully with you, the information is there, but we all battle for the time. Time is the biggest currency at the moment. Employees and managers, they struggle so much, they have to do so many things at the same time with a limited portion of time. And this is one of the great things I think a company like TikTok is doing, because you lose track of time. In the past I would say Candy Crush, but I'm not saying that anymore. The experience is so compelling that you want to stay there. So it's not only that the information is there, you have to make sure that somebody understands why is this relevant for me, why does the company want me to work on this topic, and make the experience so interesting that you want to spend time on it.
If I may just add, I think there's the joy component, which is there's so much to learn and, like everything is out there. There's also the responsibility of that mass of information that's available, because now the onus is more on the learner to curate their own learning experience, right? Like you can have courses that are, from Coursera, from a company, from a university, and I think you start taking more responsibility on your learning curve and your learning journey when you define clearly what are the modules that you want to take, how does that help you in your current role, in your next role, and how do you actually make it all meaningful and compelling for you? Because that's eventually the main criteria.
Thank you very much. Now, I know that we are over time by 5 minutes. Khaled, how are we doing? We can take one more? Okay, we'll do one more if that's okay. Thank you.
كمتخصص في الصحة النفسية أنا أخصائي.
So me as a mental health well-being, I try to give us some recommendations that can recommend it to us, for us to learn, and also to give it for the AI. As for healthcare providers or engineers or whatsoever, I think you guys as an AI professionals to identify the skills and the definitions that we can adopt so that we can learn it, and if we learn it correctly, we will be experts within the AI field.
As a licensed therapist and psychology expert, his question was around what are the general term, or let's say broad spectrum of skills relevant to generative AI for professionals that just want to get into the field and be relevant in their specific professions. So he's specifically a licensed therapist, but what could other professionals looking in as a set of skills that they can learn in terms of AI?
Well, I would say communication and collaboration are super important, because not everything is a 0 or 1 with AI, and you need to be able to express yourself really well, that you really understand each other, and you really have to collaborate because you can't solve things on your own. So those two aspects, they also define how the well-being of a person, I think, is, because it has a huge impact. If that communication somehow is out of sync and the collaboration is out of sync, then it really has an impact on a person to see, hey, am I making impact here at all, or am I having a success? Am I delivering a contribution? I hope that somehow answers your question.
So I think, you want to add to that?
Sorry, just to add one more. I think for me, the cool thing to play with in AI is actually generative AI. And there are today so many applications, and especially when you think your role is primarily to be with the patient, to listen. So how can you free more time for you to be fully in listening mode versus someone who actually needs to sit, write notes, like make recommendations as you go while listening to your patient. So a lot of the new technologies today in transcribing the notes can free your mind to be fully present in that particular session. So that's something, generative AI can be something to start with and to play with, to give you more time and more presence in your interaction with patients.
Thank you. And I think we do really need to wrap up here. I want to thank all of you for your attention and your engagement. And a special thank you to Bas and Safia for sharing your insights and your guidance on today's topic. I think we could sit here and talk all day. But thank you so much, everyone.